Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Seth, and today I'm going to be running through my Vivictus Asmati, the Dire deck. I had a lot of fun building this deck. I've never built Jund before, but it was a blast to build, and originally the deck was going to be a Wasitora Nekuro Queen deck. And as I was looking through EDH Rec for cards that would fit a deck for her, I ended up running into Vivictus Asmati, so she focuses around dealing combat damage to my opponents, and then they have to sacrifice a creature. If they can't, I make a 3/3 flyer. Pretty sweet. But I ended up finding Vivictus Asmati and figured that he would be so much cooler and I would enjoy building him so much better. So what he does is, whenever he attacks, for each player, I choose something that that player controls, and then we all have to sacrifice those permanents. We then reveal the top card of our library, and we put that onto the battlefield. I thought it was a super fun mechanic that could be really mean, but also really fun at the same time, and I try to lean into the group hug mechanic of when I play it. Like, I don't necessarily blow up the best thing on my opponent's boards, and I try to politic a little bit, that way we can all just have a good time. So he's super fun to play, and I actually built this deck so it has no spells other than permanent spells, so there's no instants and no sorceries, and it seems to work out pretty well. It kind of... I don't have a lot of responses on my opponent's turns, but that's okay because I do a lot. I do enough on my turns to where I don't need to necessarily interact with my opponents during when they have their own stuff going on. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. The deck costs about $125 according to Architect from the TCG Player Market. So the regular market price for all of these cards averages out to about $125. Now, most of that money just comes from a couple cards in the deck, mainly some cards like Blood Crypt and Wooded Foothills. Blood Crypt being a shock land that I was lucky enough to pull from Ravnica Remastered, as well as Wooded Foothills being a fetch land that brings in a untapped forest or mountain for only one life from Modern Horizons 3. So really most of the cards that I have in here that are expensive are cards that you don't necessarily need in the deck, but I'm just lucky enough to have them, so they definitely boost the deck a ton. So anyways, I'm just going to jump right into it. Most of the deck here is ramp. It makes a lot of sense that it is. I mean, my guy's a 6-drop, and I need to get him out as quick as possible to start getting value from his abilities. So we've obviously got Soul Ring, Wild Cantor for 1 mana, and then I can sacrifice it for any color mana, which is awesome. Elvish Mystic or Llanowar Elves, I mean, they do the same thing, but at 1-drop for another green mana, just great ramp. Ignoble Hierarch, 1 green mana, but I can tap for any Jund, and it has Exalted, so whenever a creature I control attacks alone, it gets an additional +1/+1, whether that's with Vivictus or another creature I have. It works out really well. Arcane Signet, just for some more mana. Mind Stone, and then I can later sacrifice it off of itself to draw a card. Enterprising Scallywag for some treasure. Sakura Tribe Elder, just for some more lands out. Bandit's Hall. Every single turn, ideally with Vivictus, I'm going to be committing crimes, so this is really good, not only for the ramp and the mana that it gives, but also removing the 2 loot counters from it to draw a card. Works out really well. Fertilid, just another death trigger along with getting some more lands out. Jade Orb of Dragonkind. Now, along with Jade Orb of Dragonkind, there is Carnelian Orb of Dragonkind, which I did also want for this deck. I wasn't able to find it for like a decent price or like look through bulk around the game stores in my area, but the deck works fine without it. But if you do have it, it does work really well. It gives Dragon's Haste if you cast it with the mana it produces, which would be really nice for Vivictus, but it's not crucial, so it is what it is. And then this actually gives him a counter, and he gains Hexproof until my next turn. So even though he is scary, maybe he doesn't have haste, I get him out, he gets not only a buff, but he can't be targeted, so hopefully that saves him a little bit from being destroyed the first time I play him. Gadrak the Crown Scourge, another low-cost dragon card. I forgot to mention, this deck is like a pseudo-dragon tribal. It's not centered around it, but it does work out very well. And then he also gets me treasures. So yeah, just pretty good ramp. Solemn Simulacrum gives me land and draw. And then finally, we've got the green Dragonstorm, Encroaching Dragonstorm, that when it enters, you go and search for 2 basics, and then whenever a dragon comes in, you bounce it back to hand. Breaching Dragonstorm, when it enters, you're going to be able to cast a card from the top of your library for free as long as its mana value is 8 or less, or you just put it in your hand if it's more, but I don't think I have anything more than 8 mana in this deck. So yeah, it works out really well. And then finally, Dracogenesis, just since it is a pseudo-dragon tribal, and, you know, not having to pay for Vivictus unless it's commander tax, works out really well. So yeah, that's it for the ramp in the deck. I mean, other than the basic lands, I have a ton of basic lands in here. I think the land count is up to 37, but usually I'm able to get Vivictus out pretty quickly. If not, I'm able to get a pretty big board by the time I get Vivictus out. But yeah, that's it for the ramp. Next up, we'll move to some treasure generation. So other than Gadrak, I got these guys. Mahadi, which does basically the same exact thing that Gadrak does. At the beginning of my end step, I create a treasure token for each creature that died this turn. It's only on my end step, but, you know, ideally, I swing the Vivictus, make my opponent sack a bunch of stuff, and then Mahadi and Gadrak both get a decent amount of value out of it. Jolene gives me a treasure whenever I attack with a bigger creature, and then I can sacrifice some treasures to actually have some ping off of Jolene, which is really nice since, you know, I don't have a lot of interaction in an all-permanents deck. And then finally, Ziatora, the Incinerator. On my end step, I can sacrifice another creature and then deal that creature's damage to another creature or another target, and then I make 3 treasures. So she's also good for ping, whether it's on my opponent's creatures or my opponents themselves, or even planeswalkers. It's really helpful. Next up, we'll look at tokens. So for 1 red mana, I've got Dragon Master Outcast. So when I control 6 or more lands, on my upkeep, I'll make a 5/5 red dragon with flying. Not necessarily for the fact that it is a dragon, but just to get tokens. Maybe I have permanents non-token permanents on my field that I don't want to sacrifice off of Vivictus, and I just want to keep my stuff out while also getting rid of stuff. That's what these tokens are for. I can just get rid of something that I'm going to get back anyways, or doesn't have a lot of value, for something that is going to have a ton of value. So Dragon Master Outcast is really great, especially since I ramp up really quickly. At knife point, the first part doesn't really matter. It just makes me red mercenaries whenever I commit a crime, which is sweet. Like I said, tokens to sack. Trading Post, same thing. I can either gain life off of it, make some tokens off of it, draw cards, or return artifacts from my graveyard to hand, which I have a decent amount of artifacts in here, so pretty good value out of this. And then Hansk, Slayer Zealot, which is actually the Daryl card from Walking Dead. He's the Secret Lair remaster, or the Universes Within reprint. And then at the beginning of my upkeep, I choose an opponent, and they get 3 2/2 zombie creature tokens, and then I can tap him to deal 2 damage to a target creature, and whenever a zombie an opponent controls dies, it draws a card. So this kind of leans into the group hug element, where I'm giving my opponents tokens that I am actually going to destroy to hopefully get them more stuff, but Hansk actually gets me even more value out of that, so it's really a win-win, but I understand it is really, really scary because I'm getting so much value out of those guys. And then finally, Dragon Lair Spider. I'm just going to be making some insects whenever my opponents cast spells. So, yeah, that's it for tokens. Next up, we've just got some destruction and ping, I guess. So first up here is Zoyowa Lava Tongue. If I descend it on my turn, then each opponent either discards, sacrifices a permanent, or they take 3 damage from Zoyowa. Just another way to deal damage to my opponents, you know, without having to swing with Vivictus. Or maybe they sacrifice more permanents, which will get me even more value. Scavenger Regent. This is like my one board wipe I have in here, and it's really nice that I do have it kind of as like a pseudo-dragon tribal, because I can give each non-dragon creature -X/-X, and like I said, I ramp so quickly that this is usually very effective. I mean, unless my opponents are running a ton of token or a ton of counters, this is usually going to get rid of the stuff that I don't really want my opponents to have. Disruptive Stormbrood, artifact or enchantment destruction, or even creature destruction with the Omen as well. And yeah, just simple dragon. Like I said, Wasitora was the original plan for this deck, and then I ended up going with Vivictus, but she's still in here, and whenever she deals damage, that player sacks a creature. If they can't, I make one of these guys, and these tokens are actually so adorable. I'm so glad I found these, if I can grab them quick. She makes these guys right here. These are the official tokens. They're so cute. I'm so happy I found them. But yeah, she just does that. Butcher of Malakir. Whenever a creature I control dies or Butcher of Malakir dies, my opponents then have to sacrifice another creature. And then, yeah, that's it for destruction. It just helps, you know, other than Vivictus, if I really want to be, I guess, more mean or lean away from the group hug elements or the group hug playstyle that I try to play Vivictus as, those cards do help a ton with just, you know, kind of slowing down my opponents and getting able to ramp my own board up a little bit more. Next up, we've got some draw. So first up is Vampiric Rites for 2 mana, and sacking a creature, I gain 1 life and draw a card. This is awesome with the tokens I have, or maybe I, you know, get more value off of sacking creatures. So this is just really, really, really great to have for the life game too, because there's not a ton of that. Morbid Opportunist. Once per turn, whenever one or more creatures die, I draw a card. It's pretty good. Usually I have big enough blockers, so if somebody swings at me, I can just kill something. Or, I don't know, maybe on another opponent's turn, I sacrifice my own creatures so I can get some value out of this. Stormshriek Feral for its Omen. I can discard 1 card to draw 2 cards, and then also, like I said with the Disruptive Stormbrood, it's just another dragon in here. Coveted Jewel, I got from a precon. It was one of the mystery precons that they have in Walmart. And I really, really like this card. I have not found a good place to use it. I thought I was tempted to put it into Karn for a while, and then I just didn't. Maybe I will. I'm not sure, but I thought it worked really well for this deck. When it enters, I draw 3, and then it can tap for 3 mana of 1 color. And then when an opponent attacks whoever controls Coveted Jewel, and they're not blocked, they actually gain control of Coveted Jewel. This is really good if I need quick ramp or quick draw, because for only 6 mana, it's still decent. And then if my opponents come at me later on and I don't block it, they take control of it, and then I can target it off of Vivictus since they control it. So I'm destroying something I own, they just happen to be controlling it at the time. So that's something I also was thinking about leaning more into, like scrying, so Vivictus's trigger is better for me, and also giving my opponents stuff. So Coveted Jewel and Hansk, they work really well in that case. Kothafed Soul Hoarder. Whenever a permanent controlled by another player is destroyed or it's put into the graveyard, whenever it dies, effectively, I draw a card and lose 1 life. Harvester of Souls. Whenever another non-token creature dies, I can draw. And then Dragon Appeasement. This is a really great card. It's actually only like 5 cents too. It's something crazy like that. And I thought it worked super well in this deck. I skip my draw step, but whenever I sack a creature, I may draw a card. So, you know, if I have this guy out along with a lot of these other sacrifice outlets, then it works really, really well, and I have a lot of fun with it. Next up, we'll do these right here, which these are my 3 tutors in the deck. So Fauna Shaman for 1 mana, and I discard a creature card to go get another creature card from my library. She's great if I, you know, need something quick. Maybe I want, I don't know, Ziatora or something, so I can sack more creatures and get some treasures, or I don't know, another dragon. Maybe I have my Breaching Dragonstorm out and I need some ramp. I just go get a little dragon that I can cast for free and get some more ramp, whatever. Varragoth Bloodsky Sire. He's really cool. So the way he tutors is if I attack with him, I can then pay his boast costs. I go find a card. I don't have to reveal it to my opponents, and I put it onto the top of my library. So if I attack with Varragoth and Vivictus, and then I trigger the boast, I can go find a card, put it onto the top of my library, then have Vivictus trigger, sacrifice something I own, and then whatever card I tutored up with Varragoth comes right out onto the battlefield. Really great, and since it's not exclusive to creatures, I have a really fun time with it. I don't think I've been able to get it off a lot yet. I think like once or twice, but in any event, it's still a really fun card and a cool interaction between the two. And then finally, Runescarred Demon. It's 7 costs for a 6/6 flyer, which is cool. And when he enters, you just tutor any card, whatever. But yeah, with the amount of ramp I have, the high cost cards really aren't a huge issue for this deck. But yeah, that's it for the tutor. Next up, I'll do some life gain here, which there's not a ton. Alchemist Assistant, a 2-drop monkey that for 2 mana, you can exile it from your graveyard and put a lifelink counter on a creature. Yeah, just giving a creature lifelink, usually probably Vivictus since I'm swinging with him anyways. But that's what he does. Arnie slays the troll. Target creature fights. Add 1 red mana and put 2 counters on a creature, and then I gain life equal to the greatest power among creatures I control. Just a little life gain, and, you know, if I don't need it for the life gain at the moment, I can just sacrifice it before it gets to that 3rd lore counter. And then finally, Rattleback Apothecary allows me to give a target creature I control menace or lifelink until end of turn as long as I have committed a crime. Now, like I said, Vivictus counts as committing crimes because I'm targeting my opponent's stuff, so that triggers off of that, and I can either make Vivictus harder to block with menace or give him lifelink and get some more value out of him attacking. Next up, some pump. So Kori Steelcutter, one of a lot of good cards that came out of Tarkir Dragonstorm. For 2 mana, you cast it, and for 2 mana, you equip it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1, has trample and haste, which I think this is the only thing that will actually give Vivictus trample in this deck. And then whenever you cast your second spell, you can make a monk, and you may attach this to it. I think I forgot this trigger a ton when I played this last time, but it's not a huge deal, mainly for the haste. I have this in here, but in any event, it's a really good card. Rising of the Day gives all creatures haste and buffs my legendary creatures, so that's really good. Rhythm of the Wild will give either creatures I cast a +1/+1 counter when they enter, or haste when they enter. So usually, like I said, off of Rising of the Day, or off of Kori Steelcutter, usually this is for haste off. Usually this is, I'm getting haste for Vivictus, but for other stuff it's a +1/+1 counter, just so my board looks a little scarier and people don't want to attack me, but yep. And then Thrakus the Butcher will double my creature's power until end of turn, or sorry, double my dragon's power until end of turn, just making Vivictus a little scarier when he attacks. Atarka will actually give him double strike as well, so with Thrakus and Atarka out at the same time, it'll make him really scary. Just with these two out, it'll make him a 12/6 double strike, so that's enough commander damage to kill if he's not blocked that turn. But yeah, that's it for Pump. Then we've got some silly attack stuff. So Aggravated Assault, I can pay 5 mana and get an extra combat phase and main phase. If I have the mana to spare, which usually I do because, like I said, I have so much ramp in this deck. This is really good. Doors of Durin, whenever I attack, I scry 2. Then I may reveal the top card of my library. If it's a creature card, I put it onto the battlefield tapped and attacking. Until my next turn, it gains trample if I control a dwarf and hexproof if I control an elf. No dwarfs in this deck, so no trample. But I do have a couple elves, so it does have the chance of getting hexproof until my next turn. But the main thing that this is in here for is for, like I said, Vivictus' trigger. This is another card that works really well with like Varigoth. When I attack, I scry, and if I don't like the card that's on top, or I don't like the couple of cards that's on top, or one of the cards I do really like, I just keep that there, and then I'll have Vivictus trigger, put it onto the battlefield, and it's a huge win for me. And then Wolfgar of Icewind Dale, he just doubles attack triggers, so like Doors of Durin or even Vivictus himself. When Vivictus attacks, instead of choosing 1 permanent each of my opponents control, I instead choose 2, and then his trigger happens twice. That's all it is. I think Wolfgar is the most expensive creature in here, which is pretty funny. And also, he's from the Drizzt Do'Urden comics, or not comics, Drizzt Do'Urden books by R.A. Salvatore. I've only read the first one, not chronologically, the first one written, which is The Crystal Shard. Great series of books, highly recommend them. I built a Drizzt deck like a year ago, and it was super fun. But anyways, yeah, he's super cool. Next up, we've got some recursion here. So for Phyrexia Reclamation, for 1 mana, Phyrexian Reclamation, and then you can pay 2 mana, 2 life, and return a creature card from graveyard to hand. Yeah, pretty self-explanatory. Reassembling Skeleton, for 2 mana, it's a 1/1, and then for 2 mana, you can return it from graveyard to the battlefield. This is really good if I'm just, sacrificing him over and over again, bringing him back. That way, I'm not really getting rid of anything off of Vivictus. Doomed Necromancer, 3 mana, and then he has an ability where I can sacrifice him and return another creature from graveyard to the battlefield. Doesn't even say tapped, so maybe I got rid of, a really good creature I have, and I can just bring him back with Doomed Necromancer for only 1 mana. Reaver Tear's Ascendancy, whenever I sack a creature, I may then return a creature card with lesser mana value from my graveyard to the battlefield tapped. Only happens once each turn, but it does build up a lot, especially if I'm sacking bigger stuff, or I'm sacking smaller stuff early game and then bigger stuff later. I just bring that little stuff back, and then, I can bring it later back, or I can bring the bigger stuff back later with Phyrexian Reclamation or other cards. Cavalier of Thorns. When he enters, you look at the top 5 cards of your library, and you can put a creature or land card. Sorry. You just put a land card from among them onto the battlefield, and the rest go into graveyard. And then when he dies, you put another card in your graveyard. If you sorry, oh my gosh, I need to chill out here. When he dies, you may exile him, and when you do, you put any card in your graveyard to the top of your library. So yeah, maybe I want to sacrifice him off of Vivictus, and then that will trigger him. I'll put it onto the top of my library, and then I'll get that off of Vivictus if I have something in my graveyard that I want back out. But yeah, really great card. And then Bladewing the Risen. When he enters, I can return a dragon permanent from my graveyard to the battlefield. And then, yeah, that's about it. Other than the 2 mana that I can buff my creatures until end of turn. That's it for Recursion. Finally, or not finally, we got one more thing after this. We've just got some protection. So for Lightning Greaves, Haste and Shroud, really great. Once if I get these out and then I play Vivictus, giving him haste that turn is really awesome. Ground Seal. When this enters, I draw a card, and cards in graveyards can't be the targets of spells or abilities, which usually isn't great if you're playing a Recursion deck. However, since I can sacrifice this anytime I want, not really a huge deal. Lion Umbra, enchanting a modified creature. I might end up taking this out. I don't have a lot of modification stuff other than like the equipments I have, and I guess some of the counters I put on my stuff. But it is a little out of place. It's really just here for the Vigilance and the Umbra Armor, but it's still a fine card. It gives +3/+3 in Vigilance and Reach. And then finally, Spearbreaker Behemoth, 7-drop for 5/5 with Indestructible, and I can pay 1 mana and give a big creature Indestructible until end of turn. Really good since I don't have I don't have any protection spells. This is just in the event that somebody board wipes, I'm able to pay a ton of mana and maybe keep some of my stuff up. And then finally, we've just got some, I guess you could call this ramp. I don't really know what you would call this, permanent cycling or whatever. So Aid from the Cowl. On my end step, if something I controlled left the battlefield, I reveal the top card. If it's a permanent, I put it on the battlefield, which it always is going to be because my deck is 100% permanents. And then finally, Kodama of the East Tree. Whenever a permanent enters under my control, if it wasn't put onto the battlefield under Kodama's ability, then I am able to put something from my hand with equal or less mana value onto the battlefield using Kodama. It's basically 2 spells for free, and with Vivictus and Aid from the Cowl both out, while Kodama is out, I get a ton of value. Usually I cannot draw enough cards to keep up with Kodama's ability, but it is really, really fun. And then just another 6/6 with Reach, it's really helpful. Anyways, yeah, that is about it for the deck list. I think this is the first time I've run through every single card in the deck other than like the lands. Usually when I go through deck run-throughs, I go through just some of the key pieces in the deck and I don't actually do the entire deck list itself. But no, this was a lot of fun, and that's about it. I hope you have a good one.